Hello and welcome again to Business Sense. I'm Ralph Rivas. For today's episode, we have Metro Clark Waste Management Corporation, Rufo Colaico, Director and former Chair and CEO, and Holger Holst, Director for Technical Services. Now, both of them will talk about the state of sanitary landfill in the Philippines, or their views about it, their views about waste management, and expansion plans and other projects. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, now, well, most households, we just put our waste in the garbage bag and wait for the garbage collector, and poof, the waste is gone. But of course, it's a much more complicated process. So, Mr. Kulaiko, can you give us a general overview about your operations and what you do in Metro Clark?
Well, first of all, I should point out that we are the only engineered sanitary landfill that fully complies with the standards set by not just the Philippine government, but by the European Union rules. And that's because we have the source of our know-how is our current chairman, who's with us today, uh, Engineer Holger Holst. The other thing is we believe that we may be the ones in this business who take it most seriously. We want to do the job well. We avoid exposing our workers to the toxic waste that others are typically exposed to, and we just want to do a good job. That's what it is. So, okay.
Now, Mr. Holtz, can you give us an overview about just how many tons of waste that you're
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about our area, not about the whole Philippines. Let's say Central Luzon, with or without Metro Manila. In this case, as I just want to clarify, we are serving mostly Central Luzon. We don't serve Metro Manila, but we go up to Pangasinan. We go up to we have of course Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, all the Zambales, all the regions around us, which generate per day about up to 10,000 tons a day of waste, of household waste. And we receiving right now 4,500 tons a day, which is a very big volume actually. And this is, yes, not everything in the area, because there are also still other possible facilities not comparable to ours, but they are still in use. And yeah, as Mr. Kulaiko said, we're trying to do a proper job. We are in this job now since more than 20 years. I think we have a proof of concept that our concept to dispose the residual waste of the area safe is working. And that is where we are right now. And we are looking for the future also, because as you know, the Philippines is still a growing population. Just as a little bit warning, the next 10 years, this region of Central Luzon, now including Metro Manila, will generate more or less up to 100 million tons of waste in the next 10 years. And the actual capacity of all, let's say, landfills and sites which are used to dispose waste, I would say, is less than 40 million tons. So there's a big gap coming up in the next couple of years, which will be a big problem. We are looking into this and trying to do our part, but it's a big numbers.
Okay, you mentioned several points there. One being there's going to be mountains and mountains of trash, and it's going to be a huge problem. But before all that, Mr. Kulaiko mentioned that Metro Clark Waste Management Corporation operates the first engineered sanitary landfill in the Philippines. So what does it mean exactly? Can you tell me and the audience about what exactly that means, an engineered sanitary landfill?
In short, it's a place which is in a way secure, technically secured, so that no emission goes into the harmful to the environment. The first place of all is always to protect the groundwater, the water table, because the rain is penetrating the waste and the sewage water which comes out, the dirty water has to be cleaned. And what we have a lining system for our whole area. And this lining system has drainages and prevents this sewage water, this dirty water, to go into the ground. It will be collected. It's collected in closed ponds, and it goes into our treatment system, which cleans the water, and then we release it again to the environment, to the creeks. This is one thing which is very important, because one of the biggest threats of waste is polluting groundwater. And beside this lining system, it's also how to operate, how to compact the waste, not to spread it over the whole area, to make sure that no rodents and flies, which are still in waste, not too much out there, to keep the operational area so small as possible, so that also gas emission and everything doesn't go out. Also, and of course, for the neighborhood, the smell, the odor, we also try to minimize that so much as possible.
Now, I'm quite curious, because me in my household, we do our best here to segregate. But what I noticed is that even though we segregate, once the garbage collector collects the trash, all is still mushed up together. So I mean, I don't see the point. So what are your recommendations for that? And I mean, what can we do in our households to help minimize what goes to the landfills, or at least the waste in the landfills are not going to be as I don't know, is the word less harmful an accurate description for it?
No, it's not about harmful. It's about what you're throwing away. When you think about it, if you throw away plastic in the first place is not harmful. If it's floating in the ocean in big volumes, then it is harmful. And for the household itself, yeah, you really start with the consumer itself. You have to think about what you buy, what you're shopping, but this is definitely limited. Even we in Germany, we are working on this 40 years, and we have success partially, but in the end of the day, it's still leftover residuals which have to go to a landfill or to any treatment facility. And these residuals are plastic, it's paper. Even by very good paper collection, you cannot recycle every paper. Plastic recycling is very difficult, because the original plastic raw material is mostly cheaper. So even you separate plastic in your house, it's a very good thing to do. The best thing would be not to buy anything with plastic. But the question is this nowadays avoidable? We know really what reality is. You order something, you buy something, everything is nowadays wrapped in plastic. It's mostly unavoidable. And here, again, it is the individual person who can try to start something, but the whole approach needs more or less a switch in society, the whole approach on waste management, which is a long, long way. And again, we do that in Europe since 40 years. We did have some progress for sure, but we are not there where we should be now.
Now, I want to ask
I might add something. Actually, Holger, remember, there's a law that requires every LGU to have what they call a materials recovery facility. And in theory, that should work very well, because that's where, people can, what happens is, in effect, before the garbage comes to us, it is supposed to be sorted by the LGU. And in theory, that would work well, because the people there in the LGU and elsewhere go to the garbage dump and recover what they can resell or use. So that in theory, when the garbage comes to us, it should have already been sorted out. But as you can imagine, that's not easy for the LGUs themselves to do. for one thing, they end up having a small land dump site right there the whole time because they are sorting it the whole time. But in fact, that's one of the struggles of our government is how to make rules that they can enforce and so that things will work.
Now, I'm curious, Mr. Colaito, no, you were president and CEO since 2013 before you stepped down. So I'm curious, what was your experience doing this job? I mean, it's something that, not a lot of executives would want to touch. I mean, it's literally a dirty job. So tell us your experience. How fulfilling was it? And what are the most challenging instances during your stint as president and CEO?
Well, the thing has literally grown on me. Like almost everything that's happened in my career, I've ended up in places that I had not planned to be in. Like I became president of BCDA, and all of that stuff just happened. And yet, when I look back at all of that experience, including my being president of the Shangri-La Group, etc., being a partner in SGB, doing this job, running this business with engineer Holger and Holst and my other partners, my other co-workers, this is the most personally satisfying thing that I'm doing, because we're providing a crucial service that the community needs, and that's what we keep emphasizing to our workers. This is not just a business; it's almost an advocacy. And so I have no problems with all the problems that come with it. It's part of the job. That's all.
Now, you mentioned business. Do you feel that there's enough players in waste management in the Philippines, or do we actually need more?
We need more who will work like we do.
Yes. I would say that exactly.
Now, I mean, of course, Metro Clark is expanding operations. So can you tell us more about that, Mr. Holst? I was told that there's an expansion. There's a project for which project was this again? In Clark, Pampanga.
Yeah, first of all, okay, we are located in Clark, Pampanga. That's one thing. We are in the Clark Special Economic Zone, in the subzone in the Capas area. And we have a 100-hectare property. And you do expanding the site, the landfill site, phase by phase, and normally in parts which will last for 3 to 5 years. And so that's when you talk about expansion. We had an expansion in 2021. Just last year, we started operating it about another 6 hectare. Right now, we have around 30 hectare landfill under operations. And we are accepting or getting so much residuals that we have to expand again starting this dry season, because we're getting, as we said, 4,500 tons a day, which is a very big amount of waste. Luckily, our operations on site still can handle that. And we want to make sure that the next 2-3 years we have enough volume. So we will expand another about 5 to 6 hectare to cost about 250 to 300 million pesos. This is on-site expansion so that we are still able to serve the whole communities, which in this regard, maybe we have to mention that we are serving right now in Central Luzon 150 municipalities. We're serving more than 1,000 industrial clients. We're serving the Clark Special Economic Zone. We're serving the FBMA Subic Zone. We are serving the FAB in Bataan. So we have a lot of clients which trust in us that they are not left alone when it comes to waste management.
Now, I'm also curious, what's the future of managing waste. We've been hearing a lot about waste to energy. Any updates on that? On how feasible and is this really the way to go at this point? We just convert our waste, since we have so much of it already, into energy.
Yeah, now you come to a very special thing which is on my heart. If you think about what's happened in the near future of the Philippines, I think I mentioned the next 10 years, and normally in waste management, you think in 20, 30 years terms. Just in the next 10 years, the Central Luzon area will generate more than 100 million tons of waste accumulated. Actual capacity right now is around 30 million tons in our landfill and surrounding sites where they dump waste. So that means the amount of waste growing has to be handled. This can be, let's say, in the old-fashioned way in landfills. That means we need more landfills like ours in the same sites, which are unrealistic to be built in the next 10 years. So the absolute must for the Philippines as an island is to reduce volume. You can say, yes, we can recycle more, but even we recycle more, we could recycle 40% of the waste, which would be an amazing target already. But the population is growing, and the population is the main factor for waste. So even if we would recycle 40%, in total, the amount of waste daily in the Philippines will still increase because of the increasing population. So volume reduction is the main point, and the way to do that is still is a waste to energy plant. And in this regard, I think it's important that the Philippines need something which is bulletproof, which is proven reliable, because that needs huge investments. And we propose such facility for the Central Luzon area in an unsolicited proposal to the BCDA for the new Clark City. We propose the waste management structure and system for New Clark City. And part of this proposal is a typical European automated sorting system, which sorts still the residues we get in high caloric value, which is good for a power plant, and in stuff we don't want to have in our power plant, like PVC and such things. And then the next step is we say it's a secondary fuel power plant. That means the good waste, the high caloric waste, will be used to feed a power plant, which could generate up to 35 megawatt of power, of electrical power and heat. This is in the making. Again, we proposed that already in 2019. And we are hoping that now with the new administration and BCDA, of course, COVID, everything was hampering the development. Now we're looking forward to get to a conclusion in this proposal.
Now, let me just challenge you a little there, Mr. Holst. Now, environmental groups have criticized waste to energy projects multiple times already. Whenever this is proposed, I mean, one, of course, there's the issue on emission, and two, I think the most critical part there is that some municipalities or even the areas that are being serviced that are going to be serviced by waste to energy facilities, is that they're going to be somewhat required to submit a certain amount of waste. So it's not really reducing waste, but having a quota of some sort. So what's your response to that?
I don't think so. Number one, technology nowadays is so far. I said we don't talk about incinerator. Incinerator is a stove where you just dump in the whole waste you get and you burn it with all the problems with hazardous material which get burned and everything. So that's the reason we have a sorting facility up front in our planning, and we're getting out the good stuff for the power plant. Technology-wise, the power plant emission is going really against zero. This is a technology which is available since 40 years or 50 years, which is permanently improved. And if you see our plants in Germany, we did, I think, 3 in the last 15 years. They are running very well, and it's all okay. If you think about the amount of waste, again, here we come into a point. on one side, we're talking about a change in society, to change the approach of waste management. Of course, waste has to be reduced, and I understand this point. But on the other side, we have, again, what I told you earlier, we have a population growth, which is in the Philippines still very big. We will, in 2050, we will more or less double the population in the Philippines. Right now, we have 110 million. It is estimated for 2050 to 2060 that we reach 200 million people population in the Philippines. So they will generate waste. And again, even you do all the measures you want, most possible segregation, at source, everything. It's still, there is an amount of residues which is still increasing. And again, the Philippines is an island. We don't have much space for more landfills, which will utilize needed agriculture area to feed this population. So we have to reduce the volume. And again, our proposal as a sample, when we did that in 2019, is about what we propose is a facility who can handle 2,000 tons a day. As I told you, right now, we're getting 4,500 tons a day. So it's, yes, of course, you want to reduce the waste, but you also have to stick to reality. And that's what daily comes to your place. That has to be handled. And that not for the future, in 20 years, it has to be handled on a daily basis. Right now.
Now,
I sometimes
go
joke
ahead,
Holger, and I ask him, Holger, can you please estimate how large the mountain will be if there was no reduction by waste to energy methods of this garbage that's going to be 100 million tons in the next 10 years? And of course, being that conservative German engineer that he is very reluctant to give me a picture of how large that mountain would be. But sometimes I poke him a little bit and I say, would you say it would cover more than the Ayala, more than the Makati Commercial Center with a mountain taller than the Ayala Tower one? And he smiles and laughs. So maybe I'm not too far off. But can you imagine if we don't have a way of reducing that to something like 1/3 or 1/4 by means of waste to energy? So our waste to energy proposal is twofold. Number one is you have to reduce the amount of waste that will have to be deposited somewhere permanently. And if you don't do that, you have a big problem. Number two, as a byproduct, you get electricity, which you can use. That's a form of recycling. So that's really what it is. That's what we're proposing. There is an urgent need to reduce that volume. And Senator Cynthia Villar, who is one of the foremost proponents of, taking care of our problems with waste, I think correctly proposes the reduce your use and then reuse, and that whole thing about the circular energy environment. The extreme fanatics of that approach say you can have zero waste because you can recycle everything. But when I ask the senator, she says, no. To be sensible, there will be some residue. But the main point is it has to be enough so that it's not a problem. So there you go.
Now, clearly, both of you have a vision on how to go about the waste problem and at the same time trying to resolve the country's energy problem on this one. But Mr. Colayco, what about regulation and laws and the needed paperwork for this? Do you have a wish list that maybe the government can act on to help you push with these proposals?
Well, are you asking me about, are we being hindered by bureaucracy? Is that what the question is?
I was just asking about your wish list. Maybe a new list of I don't know, taking out the red tape, or maybe some regulations that need some tweaking, Do you have certain proposals?
No, I think
I don't
maybe
know.
I
I don't know.
answer that,
Jorge,
Rufo.
do you have? To me, I think that all the laws that are needed are in place. It's a matter
Yeah,
of using the law.
when you see the development over the last, again, I came to the Philippines in 1997. When you see the development, there was nothing there. Then came the Republic Act 9003, which covers mostly all the areas of waste management. And there were still some loopholes and it's missed rules and regulations. Over the last 20 years, these rules and regulations came in place. And the latest discussion, where maybe it's a little bit more clarity for the future, but I think the guys working on really on it, is again the implementation of waste to energy projects. And as Mr. Kulaiko really said, you have to remember it's always about this waste to energy. In the first place, we don't build a power plant. We build a facility which is needed for waste management to reduce volume, which the gravy that we can generate power to recover some of the money we need to reduce this volume. And again, it's still in a discussion. Just in the last 2 years, new regulations and new implementing rules for these possibilities of waste to energy are in place, because it's all this old approach from the old times. Waste to energy is incineration is prohibited by law, which is not actually, it's prohibited to if it emits toxic and hazardous fumes, which is understandable. That's not allowed anywhere in the world, but that doesn't really hinder properly done waste to energy plants. And again, in this regard, the direction is good. Not everything is in place right now, but it's an area where the administration, the DOE, and also the DN are working on hardly right now. So that's a good development right now.
Mm. And
Holger,
on that
would I be going too far in saying that the plant that we propose to build will generate less pollutants than the typical coal-fired plants that are now generating electricity for us?
That's for sure, because the emission
There you go. See?
limits for waste to energy plants are much lower than for coal-fired power plants, because it's always based on the material, and coal has its limits. And
no, because I brought that up because some of the very zealous waste environmentalists are attacking any form of waste to energy. I mean, what do they want? You know, they believe in their zero waste, which is essentially a valid concept, except you cannot do it all the way down to zero, maybe down to 30%, as the senator says.
Physics comes in there. No, but also on the limits, when you see that in a landfill, you have an organic, it's a bioreactor, a landfill. It generates methane, and you can take out the methane, but only around 30 to 40% in reality. The rest goes in the environment. So you have a very, very big greenhouse gas generator with a landfill. If you, and it's funny enough, but if you then burn the waste, you transfer the methane to carbon dioxide, but it's much less carbon dioxide than methane wise has effect on the environment, and therefore you reduce the actually emission from the garbage drastically with a waste to energy plant. That's in the total balance, no? That's because like when the new Clark City wants to be carbon neutral or what close to that. If you generate waste, the waste has a specific amount of carbon dioxide or methane, which is 21 times more aggressive for the greenhouse gases than carbon dioxide. And if you reduce that, it's a factor of something 8. I don't want to go into the techniques. Then you have a reduced carbon footprint when you have a waste to energy plant against a landfill, because you cannot stop the landfill to generate methane. Except people change their whole lifestyle, don't throw away organics anymore, don't throw away plastics anymore, and we have no waste anymore. But that will not happen in the next 10 to 15 years for sure.
Indeed, a very complicated issue on how we should resolve the issue on waste. But thank you again so much for sharing your thoughts and your perspective from your side, especially on in describing the business dynamics of it and the logistics, even in how you do it in Clark. Again, thanks so much, Rufo Colaico, Director and former Chair and CEO of Metro Clark Waste Management Corporation, and Holger Host, Director for Technical Services. And I'm Ralph Rivas. This has been another episode of Business Sense. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.